Hour two, Budweiser's weekday sports beat with IrishBreakdown.com, and that means rapid fire time. How you doing there, Jesse?
Second hour. I'm ready for it.
Ready.
I'm hoping, like I said, this is where let's enjoy the fact that they just won a game. Let's have some fun with some rapid fire.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Dallas Golden made his first career start against Purdue due to Devontae Smith being injured again. Here is Marcus Freeman on the skills of Dallas Golden.
I think his ceiling is extremely high. He is extremely athletic, talented. He's got a lot of playmaking ability. As you watch him in high school, he's probably as good on the offensive side as he was in the defensive side. He is an athletic player, and he wants to be great. He wants to be coached. We moved him to nickel last Monday, and for him to put himself in a position to play 60, I don't know how many plays he plays, 60, 70 plays. And it's a testament to the work he's put into it, but also his ability. Like any freshman in your first game, there were some ups, there were some downs, but I'm very confident in where he's headed.
Fill in the blank, Jesse. It is blank. They moved Dallas Golden to nickel just a week ago today before his first career start at that position.
Yeah, to me, all I can say is it's freaky because it shows his freakish athleticism, and that's what Marcus Freeman was getting at in this clip that you played. Is Dallas Golden is just such a freak athlete and has so much freaky talent that basically they're like, well, we can't not put him on the field, right?
Yeah.
So if there's a need for him to play nickel, it's going to be Dallas Golden. If there's a need for him to play wide receiver for whatever position, I'm sure he'll get consideration. If there's a need for him to go back there and play safety at some point or maybe play corner, he's going to get consideration. And so I love this about Marcus Freeman and this coaching staff is we just never would have seen this in previous regimes where we understand that this guy is just again, freakishly talented, that they're finding a way to get him on the field. They're almost looking for an excuse not to put him on the field, but he continues to show why he deserves to be on the field.
No, absolutely. It's amazing that just the athletic ability that this guy has. But I mean, that's obviously part of why they recruited him and brought him here. The fact that they just put him at nickel on Monday and he starts there. That was his first career action. He hadn't played up until that point. That was it. He gets out there and he stuffed the stat sheet as well. He got his first career interception, obviously, in the second half. He had a pass breakup. He had 5 tackles. He had half a tackle for loss, and that's his first game after just learning the position on Monday. And so, it gives me a lot of hope that this secondary does still have, because you mentioned it in the first hour, Jesse, as much as we bashed the secondary and what this defense is doing for what it's giving up, you didn't have Leonard Moore out there. You didn't have Devontae Smith out there. So you had guys
inexperienced.
Yeah, you still had Carson Hobbs, or I guess you had Mark Zachary out there, so you've got a couple of freshmen out there starting at nickel and corner for you, and you move Christian Gray to a different position as well. You didn't have a Don Schuler for the entire first half. So there was at least some growing pains, but you still don't expect it to look like that. But, as for Dallas Golden, it's just you get him and Devontae Smith back and you have the ability to use both of those guys. And then I think it gives you the ability to do some different things with Dallas Golden as well, just with his versatility that he's got.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be, I guess, rude or mean here, but remember last week when we were going through the whiteboard and kind of going through some of the defensive struggles, we talked about how Carson Hobbs probably shouldn't see the field as much. And if my memory serves itself, I think he played 0 snaps, defensive snaps this past weekend. So, Marcus Freeman talked about this in a little bit of his different, press conferences, in a different part of the press conferences. You still have a lot of guys playing new positions. You still have a good young core of players. And there's going to be growing pains, but there is no better way to learn than through exposure, right? They have to build that football knowledge. And so to me, I think what we're getting into is the core rotation of secondary players that need to be out there. Leonard Moore, Christian Gray, Tay Johnson, Dallas Golden, Adon Schuler. Like, I'm cool with that group of 5 right there, depending on how you mix and match and use guys at corner, and et cetera. But like Mark Zach, that's a true freshman, right? Like, we're giving these guys, like, the experienced players are having trouble in this secondary, and we know that they're not calling plays right and the technique isn't right. So can we give them some benefit of the doubt here that there are a little bit of growing pains? And I know everyone's going to say, well, under Al Golden, Leonard Moore was a success instantly. So, but that can't be the expectation. We can't just expect true freshmen to come in here and just light it up every time, they're called upon. So there are going to be some growing pains. And I'm willing to concede that a little bit as part of this defense, is that some of these younger guys are going to have to go through some of those growing pains. And let's not to mention some of these games they're going through. Texas A&M, really good offense. Miami, really good offense. Like, now we get to settle in and watch them play some of these not as good opponents that, some of these other schools got the benefit of playing in games 1 and 2 to allow someone like, Tay Johnson, Dallas Golden to get their feet wet and not have to hit the ground running right away.
You also haven't even mentioned Madden Faremo. I know we're talking mostly about the secondary right now, but I remember when Faremo got on the field, I was like doing a double take and a triple take, and it's like 19, and Driscoll is sitting next to me, and I'm like, Faremo's out there right now. And then the next play, he gets that deflection that Christian Gray turns into an interception. Didn't see a lot of him the rest of the first half, but he got a lot of reps the second half, and I don't feel like, well, I know that we haven't talked about the fact that Faremo, Kingston, Viliamu, Asa linebacker combination was pretty effective when those two guys were out there together.
I didn't know when this would come up, but I am very much a fan of those guys being on the field.
I was too, based on what I saw. I was,
and I don't want to, maybe this can lead into some stuff later this week, but if that Arkansas quarterback is as dynamic as believed, then those are the guys that you want on the field. Faremo and KVA have the athleticism to not only play coverage, but also rally to the ball without playing QB spy and making tackles in open space.
Correct. There's a lot of promise there, a lot of hope there, I think, still. Where did it go? So Irish Eyes asks if Hobbs is hurt. He is not hurt. Hobbs is not hurt. He just has not been effective when he's been out there on the field. And that's why it was so important for Dallas Golden to be able to do what he did. And, big hats off to him. Bubs asks, any word on the injured players, Moore, Smith, and the kicker? Noah Burnett being the kicker, of course, Leonard Moore being Moore, and Smith being Devontae Smith. They are all listed as questionable once again on the injury report this week. Marcus Freeman sounded, maybe pretty hopeful that Leonard Moore would be back by this week, but I think, it's just going to be a wait and see kind of thing. It's, stinks that they're also banged up this early on. Couple super chats in the YouTube chat. Thanks to Jimmy. He says, feel better, Vince. Prayers for a smooth recovery. Vince, did have some time in the hospital at the end of last week. Monday is typically his day. He's not here today. Thanks to Jesse for filling in. And obviously we hope that our man Vince D'Addario is feeling better very soon. But I'll let him, once he does come back, we're hopeful that he'll be back, but potentially midweek on the show. We shall see, but I'll let him kind of.
How can he not be feeling better after watching the Chicago Bears demolish our Dallas Cowboys yesterday?
Thanks for the super sticker there, Jimmy Costanzo, throwing a little in. Hunter Hall, by the way, in the YouTube chat says, hey, thank you, Cowboy fans, for Micah. Go Pack, go. Yeah, how'd that game in Cleveland turn out yesterday?
He jumped off sides in a critical situation. I texted you that. I think the Browns were content with sending it to overtime. And then when Micah Parsons got that offsides penalty, it kind of gave them, we could, we got 1st and 5 here. We pick up a first down and we can get into field goal range. It's always the little things that add up.
Yeah, I mean, he's obviously a great player, but didn't work out in game number 1 quite there, did it, Hunter? Okay, Marcus Freeman asked about the left side of the offensive line today, including left tackle Anthonie Knapp.
I'm as confident in the entire offensive line as I've ever been. I know we gave up the sack, and Knapp will take ownership of it. CJ is going to take ownership of it. They brought a boundary pressure. We got to know what type of speed's coming off that edge with the safety. CJ's got to understand and recognize, okay, it is a pressure. Maybe I got to drift away or get the ball out. But I'm as confident in all 5 of those guys as I've ever been.
Okay, Marcus Freeman, very confident in that offensive line. Does Carr, Jesse, need to take any responsibility for a blindside sack?
So, first impressions, I would have told you no, but the more I thought about it, the more I would say yes. I think this kind of breaks down to like
we just saying he's got to recognize there's a corner there. And
yeah, I mean, he's got to like part of being a quarterback. And I don't see, this is the thing is I don't know the liberties that CJ Carr is given, but I know, listening to Tom Brady talk and hearing him be kind of an analyst during these games, quarterbacks are up there. They have to recognize what's at the line of scrimmage, what pressures are coming. They're going to, make call outs to set the blocking for the offensive line. Like at the end of the day, yes, there's things that CJ Carr could have done. He could have recognized it. He could have stepped up. Like Marcus Freeman said, he could have moved the pocket to the right a little bit.
Yeah, but it seems
but
like
Anthonie Knapp whiffing.
He moved his feet a little bit. Come on. Sorry.
I mean, I just don't think it's 100% on Knapp. Like it's still majority on Knapp, but I understand what he's saying.
Anthonie Knapp touched the man once. He didn't. Anthonie Knapp has a much bigger body than a cornerback coming off the edge. I realized but he was in front of him. All he has to do is keep moving his feet, and he wouldn't have been able to get to him. I understand what you're saying about Carr, just the recognition. But again, we are talking about a guy who's making his 3rd career start and accounting for those kind of things in real time. To me, I put it much more on the left tackle needing to move a little. Knapp had a nice day run blocking. The pass blocking was a completely different situation, and that obviously took it to another level. I understand what you're saying and what Marcus Freeman is saying is about recognition, but I still put it much more on Anthonie Knapp. Just keep moving. He just stopped moving. That to me was the biggest problem.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when you watch the play, it's definitely majority on Anthonie Knapp. It's just I don't love this hyperfixation on everything that Knapp does, because it seems like we want to single out every time he's bad and say, well, he's not a left tackle. When is Rudolph going to make the change? He's an idiot. Why is he still playing left tackle? Like, I'm not here for piling on the guy or just, again, putting a spotlight on him every time he has a bad rep. Like, there's 60 to 70 offensive plays a game. Of course, he's going to make mistakes, but obviously you don't want to see a mistake where the quarterback is getting stripped from the blind side. Like, that's obviously a mistake that has to be corrected. But again, like, if we're going to go back to the whole moral, I feel like, of this show is Marcus Freeman's not going to allow the finger pointing and say, Anthonie Knapp, you are the sole reason why this whole play broke down. And that's what it's got to be, is there still has to be and CJ Carr will probably say the same thing. Like, there's things that he could have recognized to make the play go better. And that's all I'm saying. It's still obviously on Knapp the most at the end of the day, but there's still some responsibility for Carr to recognize. And he will.
I got you. Brian asks if Knapp or Absher would make the best right guard for now, and would Gerby Lambert make the best left tackle? I do have to say, and obviously I was not wishing like an extended injury on Knapp, but when he had to leave the game for a play and Gerby Lambert moved over there to left tackle, I was curious to see what things might look like with Gerby Lambert playing left tackle instead of right guard. But we only got to see that for one play. So, I mean, I can't give you the answer to that question because we haven't got to see it at this point. I think most people feel like Knapp would be better on the interior, but that's not the direction that they're going. And it doesn't sound like anytime soon they're going to go in that direction. Jesse has made his point and he doesn't want to go any farther.
I don't like getting on the offensive line when they had those sort of numbers.
I hear you. Let's take a break. So Marcus Freeman was asked today about the possibility of putting Leonard Moore on the other team's best receiver when he's ready to go. And here is the answer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's as good as I've been around at that position. And, we've had discussions if we need to match him up with the best wide receiver, and no matter where he's at, we will. But you also got to do a good job being able to do that and play some zone. We can't just tell the offense, hey, we're playing man, right? We're playing man, because no defense is good enough to just say, hey, we're playing man, and every play stop them, right? And so we have considered that. We've talked about it. We need to get him available and ready to go before we can do that. And that might be this week. We're still questionable right now, but we'll see if that's what we decide to do.
So in other words, they're obviously still going to play zone. They're not just going to play man. Scale of 1 to 10, though, how much do you like the idea of Moore staying with the other team's best receiver, though, when they are in man?
Oh, right now I would say a 3 out of 10, but if they can get the defense kind of, back to a well-oiled functioning machine, then it would be a 10 out of 10, because I do think that, in high leverage games, high leverage situations, you see it in the NFL, the guys who get paid the most money and are the premier cornerbacks, they're going to travel and they're going to play predominantly on the other team's best wide receiver. But I just don't think situationally right now that makes sense. Their name has a lot of other things to figure out before they can say, yeah, we're confident enough to let Leonard Moore travel around and play man anywhere. And like Marcus Freeman said, is like you still have to disguise it, because if he's just running around with the same guy every time, then it's very obvious what you're doing defensively. But I think that Marcus Freeman knows this. You can still play man on one side and zone on the other. Like you don't have to play fully one coverage. So again, that comes with getting creative. That comes with guys understanding the defense more, and some of these young, inexperienced cornerbacks getting more time, getting more reps, and getting, just more overall comfort. Like you can't do that skilled stuff as a defense until you got the basics down. And so it's a good concept, but I don't think it's something that we would see until the back half of the season.
Yeah, I like it at a 6, I think, for and I don't need to break it down any more than you did. 1, you've got to get him healthy. 2, you don't just want to show what coverage you're in, and there needs to be ways to disguise it and stuff like that. But you get into some crucial parts of the game, I guess. I think like if you're in the fourth quarter and if it's a 1-score game and that kind of thing, and you need somebody to lock the other guy down, like I would absolutely be all in on something like that. But do you need to do it? Should you do it over the course of an entire game? Probably not. Fill in the blank. NBC putting the Notre Dame Purdue game on Peacock after the weather-delayed resumption to go to the Indiana-Illinois game Saturday night was blank.
It was a catch 180. And the reason why I say that is at the beginning I was frustrated because I was like, I've sat through a weather delay. I just want to see Notre Dame win. They're dominating right now, and I understand that's why they switched. But the reason why I say that is, and this is going to sound a little, what's the word? Arrogant, probably. But, Notre Dame is still the breadwinner majority of the weeks, right? Like, you're NBC, and you have this contract with Notre Dame for a reason. They're the people who consistently make you the most money week in and week out. But on the flip side of it, you have like a top 25 matchup, and Purdue's getting the brakes blown off of them, and people have already sat through a 2-hour weather delay on this channel. So, like, it makes sense. But, the arrogant kind of fan in me is like, well, this is still Notre Dame. Like, we're still paying a lot of the bills here at the end of the day. So if we want to keep the lights on, let's keep the lights on here.
Yeah, and I mean, I got some text, some people watching asking me about it, and I'm sure that it ticked a lot of people off. Like John says it made no sense. ND Sailor said it pissed him off. Had to go to the NBC Sports app. I'm sure a lot of people were mad, but you've got a 2-hour rain delay, and correct me if I'm wrong. Wasn't it when Notre Dame went up 49-23? Wasn't it?
It was a distinct blowout. Don't get me wrong.
Exactly. So you've got that.
It was like the start of the fourth quarter, I'm pretty sure.
And then you've got what's supposed to be your primetime game, 2 top 10 Big Ten teams, and that's part of their package now as well. Remember, like this whole Big Ten thing on NBC is supposed to be good for Notre Dame because you've got additional programming and that kind of stuff. But, of course, the irony is that Indiana just beat the brakes off Illinois anyway. So what you ended up with was a couple of, you had a unique circumstance, and that's why it ended up moving over. Like in a perfect world, you wouldn't have had a 2-hour rain delay. You wouldn't have had to worry about it. So, fortunately for me, I was there. I was watching it. I didn't have to worry about that. I understand why some people would be upset, but it's also fourth quarter and your team's up by more than 3 touchdowns. So, like a little bit of understanding, probably.
I think what the frustration comes in is Notre Dame's 0-2. The defense is still getting bullied. The one thing that we as fans want to see is the offense, the one bright spot, the offense continue to run that sucker up. And just for Notre Dame to get its first win, like that's it. We were still talking about an 0-2 team at that point. And obviously the signs were on the wall. It would take a catastrophe for Notre Dame to blow that game. But to me, it's just like, again, I think there was a lot of emotion behind it too because of the 0-2 start. The defense is still frustrating as heck. The only thing that was good about Notre Dame football is this offense that just can't be stopped.
That's exactly right. And I think that, that's probably, part of what frustrated some people. It's like, oh, we're finally winning. Now they're going to switch it. I don't have.
And not to mention that everyone just had to sit through another weather delay.
Yeah, exactly. Speaking of Indiana and Illinois, scale of 1 to 10, what's your confidence Indiana's going to win at least 10 games again after Saturday's 63-10 victory over the Illini?
So can you do a quick Google search for me and bring up the Indiana remaining schedule? Like,
you want their schedule? Okay, here we go.
Who's tough on that bad boy?
Here we go. They're going to Iowa this weekend. October 11th, they've got a bye weekend. October 4th. Wouldn't have minded if Notre Dame had a bye weekend October 4th, but that's another story. October 11th, Indiana goes to Oregon. That's a good game. Going to be a test. October 18th, Michigan State. October 25th, UCLA. That's a win. November 1st at Maryland. November 8th at Penn State. November 15th, Wisconsin. Then they close the season November 28th at Purdue.
And how many wins did you say? 10?
10. They are undefeated right now.
So, unfortunately, I have to say this, but I think that I put that confidence at like a 9 out of 10 because really Penn State, Oregon, and Maryland are the 3 games I'm worried about. And even if you lose to Penn State and Oregon, you're at 10-2. So I really have to be another 9 out of 10. And I think Mr. Cignetti, as much as I despise him, is going to be knocking on the playoff door once again this season. And, it's just, I don't know how much better or worse they are compared to last season because Illinois just looked horrible and their coach, like James Franklin, really isn't good in ranked matchups himself. So it's like, is this really a wash? I just can't believe that like Illinois just completely laid that big of an egg. Like they couldn't do anything on either side of the ball. And I was really excited for that game.
I know. I thought it would be competitive. I think a lot of people thought it would be competitive. I mean, they put it in primetime. And I tell you what, like I'm not a big Curt Cignetti fan, but he
you Google him and he does win.
He does. He won that one anyway. I think that, like, to answer this question, my confidence they're going to get to 10 wins, I would put it at a 9. I think they're good. They're going to lose to Oregon and to Penn State. I'm really curious, like, how close the game against Oregon is going to be, especially since it's on the road. It's out there, but the way Oregon has been waxing people so far this year. But I think that they get to 10 wins and they're going to be in playoff consideration again. And I think that Cignetti has no problem running it up against anyone else who gets in his way when he has the opportunity to.
How mad would he be if Notre Dame and Indiana are sitting there at 10-2? Again, long way down the road, but you know that would make him
like
so mad.
Someone was saying they don't know if they're actually better. Like they appear to be a little bit more, like they were a fairly physical team last year. They appear to be faster this year. But again, it's in comparison to Illinois. So I don't know exactly.
Let's hold our thoughts for that until that Oregon game, maybe.
I agree. Let's reassess after Oregon. I think that is a very, very fair statement. Fill in the blank. It's blank that Dabo Swinney had this line last week when asked about criticism from Clemson fans. Quote, "If they want me gone, if they're tired of winning, they can send me on their way." End quote.
It's fair but immature. I mean, we're talking about a guy who's won the conference 8 out of the last 10 years. He's got national championships. He's got a lot of the accolades. Just because it's going bad 1 out of those, 10 years, it's not time to burn it down a little bit. But at the same time, like, Dabo needs to be more mature and not make statements like that. Like, just be a grown man, like, you're having a down season. Just take one to the chin and roll with the punches a little bit. Like, you being insecure does nothing more for the fans' insecurity at this point, right? And so, like, we know the AD isn't going to boot him. We know that Clemson football and the boosters aren't going to boot him. Oh, for sure. I mean, like, look at his track record. He's got national championships. He's got conference championships 8 of the last 10 years. Like, that's the whole point of my argument.
Every year it's a little bit worse.
Sorry, I got muted there somehow.
I don't know what happened. Go ahead. Were you done? My point is every year it gets a little bit worse, and at this point he might get his wish. They might just send him on their way. The way, like, you just lost. Granted, he said that going into Syracuse. He obviously felt pretty confident about being able to beat Syracuse at home, but Syracuse owns him at this point. Like, who else in the ACC has as many wins against Clemson as Syracuse? And, like, these feel like famous last words. To be 1-3, absolutely, John. I agree with what you're saying. Not a very good look for Clemson or for Dabo, a team that people were picking to potentially win a national championship this year. Klubnik has not looked that good. And look, let's face it, Dabo, even though he has taken on a few transfers now, he still has gone kicking and screaming, and he has not embraced the current state of college football. And that is his biggest downfall right now. You can be a great coach, but there's a lot more going on in college football than just being a good coach at this point. And that's where he is right now. And he's been there for a long time as well. Like, coaches don't approach 20 years at one school. And that's where he is right now. He's not quite there yet, but he's approaching that. And it's adapt or die is where it's at. And he has not adapted very well. And he's starting to die a pretty slow death in terms of his success as a college football coach. Fill in the blank. Steve Angeli tearing an Achilles in Syracuse's upset win over Clemson is blank.
Devastating. It's absolutely devastating. You feel for a guy who's had some injuries before. He felt like he wasn't getting his fair opportunity. He could still lead a team to success. He goes to Syracuse. They're starting off hot. He's got some of the best passing statistics in the country, albeit you're playing Colgate and whoever else they played. I think like Villanova or FIU or someone. But then he goes in there against a team like Clemson and he tears it up too, and so leading the team to a big upset. It's just devastating, no matter if you like Steve Angeli, whether you like Syracuse, like, just being a football fan, you never want to see someone go through that sort of injury. If we're spinning this in a positive way, he will have 2 years of eligibility left, assuming he gets that red shirt for this season. So, there's still football to be played, but like, as an Achilles or anything major that happens in your leg, you just fear of compounding, right? Because like maybe now your ankle is compromised, or maybe your knee is compromised because of your Achilles. Like you just hope that these injuries don't go on. But yeah, it's just devastating.
Yeah, it is. It's brutal, and it stinks because Steve Angeli got his shot. He left Notre Dame, with his degree, goes to Syracuse, and he was lighting it up, man. He very responsible for the fact that Syracuse beat Clemson on the road. And obviously Clemson has turned out to be not nearly what we thought they were going to be, but that was a huge win for him and for Syracuse. And so it just stinks that in the middle of all that, he gets he got landed on in the first half after his scramble. He kind of went, I think he went head first, and the guy kind of came down on him, and then later on in the game that ends up happening. So just devastating to see that kind of thing. You never want to see anyone, whether it's ACL, Achilles, any of those kind of things. And now it's all over with. And so we're not going to get the the big reunion on senior day back here at Notre Dame Stadium like we thought we were going to when Syracuse comes to town. It's going to look a lot different now. So the storyline's going to look a lot different, in terms of what might have been with Angeli and Syracuse coming back here.
Two things. You are definitely fighting some end of show achiness right now. And
is it obvious?
Well, you're full standing, and then also you're kind of like rocking back and forth there a little bit. Second thing is, can we just talk about, okay, we've seen what CJ Carr is capable of. We've seen what Steve Angeli did with Syracuse. What does this say about Kenny Minchey?
About how good he could be as well, you mean?
If the competition was that stiff between Carr and Minchey, and the guy you kick out, Angeli, is doing what he was doing at Syracuse, can we just say that this quarterback room that Notre Dame had, might have been just uber talented?
Might be the best quarterback room they've ever had.
Let's for real. If we're seeing these sort of results, and that to me just shows that Kenny Minchey is going to find a job somewhere too. I guess that's probably what I was getting at, is I think Kenny Minchey is going to get his shot as a Power 4 starter.
Okay, Bears thrashed the Cowboys 31-14. Caleb Williams, 298 yards, 4 touchdowns. Will he ever look as good as he did yesterday again?
So it's funny that you posed the question this way, because I hadn't even said this to you yet. But 2025 Dallas Cowboys defense led by Matt Eberflus. If you want to see how every offensive coordinator dreams of their offense looking, just line up and play the Dallas Cowboys, because everything is going to work. Everything you drew up schematically is going to work. You're going to have a career day. I mean, look what Russell Wilson did last week, and then look what Russell Wilson did against the Chiefs last night.
I know.
If you want to look spectacular, you want to get the confidence back, your mojo back, and you want to know that everything that you dial up as an offensive coordinator can work, just play the Dallas Cowboys.
Russell Wilson led the Giants to 15 total points in the 2 games not against the Dallas Cowboys. Caleb Williams, 31 points. Everything went right for Caleb Williams. Vincent was texting with us yesterday. He's like, that's literally the best Caleb Williams has ever looked. Will he ever look that good again? That's a good question. I don't think that he will.
People don't realize that we're living through. It's like what's the show, Freaky Friday or whatever, or it's like I watched the Notre Dame defense on Saturday, and I swear I'm watching the same defense on Sunday.
It's really no different. They're having the exact same problems. All the things Cowboys fans are talking about. They want to fire Matt Eberflus. They're complaining about all this zone defense, and guys in the media down there in Dallas are going, see, even when they play man-to-man, they're still giving up big pass plays. They're not getting any pass rush because obviously they traded Micah. It's like, make a list. It is all this, everything that Notre Dame's defense is going through, the Dallas defense with Matt Eberflus is going through. By the way, though, Ben Johnson, comes out on top on this one, but week 1, he plays his old team. They give up 50-some points against his old team. The Detroit Lions, Matt Eberflus, against his old team, gets thrashed as well. Maybe there's something to these former coaches going against their
well, I will say any offensive coordinator in this league that is at the skill level of like McVay, Johnson, the guy over at Philadelphia, like they're going to run laps around the Cowboys defense. Like all of these good coordinators are just going to, they're just like the Cowboys are just like a punching bag.
They hung with the Eagles in the second half anyway. All right, well, that's going to do it for tonight. Appreciate all the stuff in the chat tonight. Jesse, appreciate you. I will talk to you tomorrow, sir. We will talk to you then. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.